Yeah, and I don't think we can grow as humans if we don't do difficult things and take risks.
Welcome to the Hard Way podcast with Joe De Sena, founder and CEO of Spartan Races. We're teaching you how to overcome your obstacles in your life the same way we teach our 10 million plus Spartans to overcome obstacles on the course, with insight from the smartest, most accomplished experts from every corner of the world. Get ready to elevate your life today. Unbox your best self with the food, coaching, and community support you need to reach your goals. Trifecta delivers delicious, micro-balanced meals directly to your door, no matter your diet. Clean, keto, paleo, vegan, or vegetarian, Trifecta is your nutrition partner for your best self.
Joe De Sena here, CEO and founder of Spartan, and the new Hard Way podcast, Juliet and Kelly Starrett. Maybe the first guests on the new Hard Way podcast.
Oh, no way.
Yes, what an honor.
We're breaking
Are
the
you
seal.
serious?
Come on.
This is a pretty big deal. I mean, it's been going on, it's got to be 7 years, the Spartan Up podcast. The idea was rip people off the couch, get them moving, doing all the things, the three of us have done together over the years. But then we said, look, it's a lot more than Spartan. It's Tough Mudder now. It's all these crazy endurance brands like M2O, which we have to get you to, La Ruta, Deca, Highlander, Spartan Trail. So we said, actually, all three of us, I think, you tell me, Juliet and Kelly, you guys believe in the hard way.
I do believe in the hard way.
Dude,
I think Kelly does too.
My middle name is Long Way Around the Barn.
Yeah.
It's the only way to
long
learn.
way. When I went to your house, you threw it wasn't a kettlebell, it was a dumbbell in my hand and then pushed me into the pool. What is it, 10 feet deep, your pool?
11.
That's 11 feet deep, and it was a 50-pound dumbbell, just for the record.
50-pound dumbbell, and you told me, don't bother coming up unless you come up with the dumbbell. And it took me a while. Like, I didn't know I could hold my breath that long, but then finally you have no choice, right? I wanted dinner. I wanted to breathe.
Yeah, I mean, we make it a sort of like, you have to get through these challenges of getting into the bottom of our pool and sitting in our cold plunge and our sauna. And then if you survive those, you get to eat dinner and cookies.
That's it. That's the hard way. So why should people take on the hard way? I mean, I know you've written all kinds of books around movement and flexibility and remaining mobile. What's the latest book called?
It's called Built to Move.
Built to Move. But why the hard? Like, if you believe in that, why the hard way? Why the cold showers? Why strap a dumbbell to my neck and throw me in the pool? Why?
The test, ultimately, no joke, is crisis and observation. To make yourself uncomfortable and observe what happens to you. And that can be anything. That can be, hey, I haven't walked around the block for the first time. I'm going to try that. I have to stand up after surgery. I have to re-engage in a sport after a devastating loss. It doesn't matter what it is for you, but ultimately we have to make ourselves uncomfortable and surprise ourselves. And again, it's not, you don't have to set yourself on fire the first day, but it turns out there are ways that your brain thinks this is very scary. I'm really uncomfortable. And it elicits all the deep archetypal fear responses. When we've put people in the pool, we learned this from our friends Laird and Gabby, people have real fears of drowning. And as soon as we constrain the environment just a little bit, all I said was just jump off the ground holding this pool, this weight, and take a breath. But what's amazing is you can put that thing down in 2 seconds and come back up and just tread on the water. But the constraint forces you to contend with, wow, what happens if I can't? And a lot of interesting information comes up for us. I think that's why these things are so transformational. All of these races, all these events, they give us a chance to know who we are through crisis and observation.
Yeah, and I don't think we can grow as humans if we don't do difficult things and take risks. And unfortunately,
it's controlled risk.
And the way that our society and culture is set up now, it's all about comfort and air conditioning and sitting and not moving and eating, high calorie processed foods, all these things that feel very comfortable. And I think the only way we can really grow as a human is to make ourselves uncomfortable. And because of the way our environments are now, we actually have to intentionally make ourselves uncomfortable. Sometimes we have to sort of be very intentional about how we do that, whether that's a Spartan race or a cold plunge or, dropping your friends into the bottom of the pool with a 50-pound dumbbell.
The risk is even just the competition. Like, you and I are going head to head playing ping pong, and all of a sudden there's something at stake.
Yeah.
And I can't just pretend like the edges don't matter, that the uncertainty doesn't matter. I think we've lost play. And at the heart of play is sort of competition, boundaries, uncertainty. We just need that in order for our brains and our bodies to feel like we're connected to each other and to the world around us.
And I think there's a lot of ways that people can take risks that actually are outside of the physical too. I mean, public speaking is something that terrifies most people.
Asking for a raise.
Yeah, asking
Having
for a raise.
difficult conversation.
There's a lot of ways to be uncomfortable and take risks as humans. But, obviously for us, the most obvious ways we do it is physically. I mean, we have we met actually at a Whitewater World Championship paddling down this really epic Class 5 river in Patagonia called the Fu. And, if you make a mistake, it could be really serious. And, we took a lot of risk doing a lot of really difficult rivers at an early age. And I think that's why we both learned early on to be comfortable being uncomfortable.
And how that was
risks.
such an important part of the reason why those relationships, because that's what it comes down to, those relationships in that experience are just so rich.
I'm listening to you and I'm thinking it's the same narrative we've been saying over at Spartan. I've been saying for 23 years now, but it seems like now the biology, the science, the understanding has caught up with the things you knew in the rapids in Patagonia. I somehow knew, I don't know, from mom or from these crazy races I was doing, but the science now says you just don't grow otherwise, right?
The other thing I think is interesting is that you quickly decided that as soon as the race had real clear parameters, then it was just a gamification. Who can, whose physiology is the best? That, of course, it's awesome. We love sport. But one of the things that you did, which I tried to emulate a lot actually, is you created open tasks that you didn't know. It's not the same course every single time. It's not the same order of events every single time. It's not the same length. It's not the same place. And so there's a real uncertainty about bringing your skill set and setting yourself up for, here are the skills I have. I'm going to go ahead and solve this set of problems presented to me in this novel way. Even the way sometimes we train with Juliet and I in the garage. Remember, we're just middle-aged parents. And one of the things I'll do is I'll say, hey, we're going to go until one of us doesn't want to go anymore. Even just that openness of the training. Again, we're just talking about exercises, step aerobics with weights, which we have done thousands of times. But if we can just change a variable where we say, hey, we're not sure how long we're going to go. We're not sure how we're going to feel. Let's go explore those. It makes people super uncomfortable. Juliet hates it and yet always is playing along. And I feel like so much of the idea here is this uncertainty. We know that when you walk quickly through your neighborhood, you walk at a high speed, or especially in a new environment, your brain starts to make new connections. The possibilities of neuroplasticity open up because your brain says, I don't know what's going to happen next. I better start to set up the field for more learning and better appreciation and more understanding of the nuance around me. That just happens if you speed up. Now we start to look at flow, we look at creative states, and putting yourself into situations where you have to start to sort of contend with uncertainty. Turns out it makes us feel better and puts us into states afterwards that last for days and days. That's why people get so high on doing these events.
It's interesting. I don't know if you'd agree with me or not, but it sounds like you would. If this was the 1600s or 1500s, and the three of us were lucky enough to live back then, my dream, we probably would be not, if we were doing this podcast in the 1500s, we would not be pushing hard. The name of the podcast would probably be, buy a couch, get a smallpox vaccination, right? Don't
take some of the danger away.
Take some of the exactly.
But life has gotten so soft for the privileged, right? And we are definitely privileged. And if you're listening to this or watching this, you're probably privileged, that we've got to add hard to our lives.
Yeah, one of the things, we open up our book Built to Move with this thing called the sit and rise test, where you just have to cross your legs and sit down on the ground and then stand back up again without putting a knee or a hand down. And, people might not think of that as like a quote unquote hard thing, when you're talking about doing like Spartan races or death races. But turns out that just that simple movement is very difficult for people. And it's because we've lost the skill and ability to be able to get up and down off the ground and sit comfortably on the ground. And so again, doing hard things does not always need to be extreme. Some of these hard things are just going back to the basic things that the human body is supposed to be doing
to eliminate blind spots.
Yeah, just to be, and one of those is, can you get up and down off the ground without putting your knee and your hand down?
Like if I handed you a bunch of, like a baby and a glass of wine, and I was like, you have to stand up off the floor. How are you going to solve that?
I mean,
problem?
when you come over to our house later this month, you're going to have to do the sit and rise test with the 50-pound dumbbell. And we've seen some people doing it on Instagram. So I'm confident that you'll be able to do it.
But I'm going to start, I'm going to cheat. I'm going to start practicing now. What made you write the book Built to Move?
Oh,
you go ahead.
Well, let's start with this, is that we have seen $1 trillion fitness industrial complex rear its head. And we've run this experiment really legitimately over 10 years now. If you look at just sort of the advent of the internet and the sophistication of training and the accessibility, you can buy kettlebells at Walmart. I mean, that has changed. The world has changed. You can buy protein at like Target, like something is up. So we're running this $1 trillion experiment. And Juliet and I have spent the last 15 years really working alongside some of the best athletes on the planet in as many different sports as you can shake a stick at, all the branches of the military. We see Fortune 500 companies, Olympians, we see everyone's dirty laundry. And simultaneously, we have always felt like those high performance environments illuminated us about what best practice was. That one of my favorite quotes is, there's more variation in waltzing than there is in sprinting, which means that low loads, low speeds, low stress, low stakes, you can get away with anything. As soon as we have some skill and some stake in the game where we're going fast and things matter and performance matters, we start to see behaviors really start to aggregate into best practice. You have to sleep. You have to eat. You have to do some things better if you're going to perform at that level. At low levels, low speeds, doesn't matter. So we've always felt like that teaching hospital test kitchen of high performance was the way we could understand and try to transform our own communities and transform our own society through what these best practices were. And simultaneously, we saw, especially through the pandemic, that people were not being served by this industrial complex. We were more fat, more diabetic, more depressed. We had higher injury rates, more substance abuse, less sleep. Choose something you give a crap about. And what you can say is, well, hey, this independent third-party validation of our environment and how we're telling people to live isn't working. And we can do more of it, but that doesn't seem to be working. I mean, is 15 years of running a national experiment not long enough to see inputs and outputs? Well, we're falling flat on our faces. And what we felt like was we needed a different approach where we could take the person in their home and begin to say, here's how we integrate those best practices into the place where people are going to really see that change the household.
One of the things that we admire so much about you and the work you've always done is how welcoming and accessible you've made the Spartan races and now all of these other events to everyday people. I mean,
Molokai to Oahu is not accessible.
Okay. I mean, some of them, a lot of them. But, we've done so many of your events where we've been, hiking up to the top of Squaw Valley with, people who are like decidedly weekend warriors. And this is the most extreme thing they've ever done, right? It's been very accessible. And I think that was one of our goals with this book is, how do we take these best practices, first principles of health and make them uber accessible to more people
and show them where they can integrate
because
into their lives.
Those of us who are like nerds of health and fitness, which we include ourselves in that group, like we have made ourselves better. We are, tracking everything. We have these really sophisticated exercise plans. We're meal prepping, sauna, ice bathing, taking the right supplements. We're doing all the right things. We're getting better and we're making the best athletes better, but we've totally left most people behind. And I think you actually, and the work you've done is a real exception to that. You really have cast a really wide net and tried to bring so many people under it and say, hey, health and movement isn't just for the elite. It just isn't for the 1%. Health and movement's for everyone. And that was our goal. Our goal with this was to say, hey, we want to open up the door and bring as many people as in possible and make it relatable and accessible with these sort of first principles in mind.
I love it. Definitely democratizing all this stuff. By the way, again, it's not like super advanced Jetsons type of technology. It's like cold water, right? It's actually the reverse.
Or walking.
Yeah.
Or walking.
We're obsessed with walking.
Yeah.
And I wanted people to understand this is a national health crisis. Like, this is about national security as much as it is about better communities. We have a neighbor who I've been battling with for like 10 years about a fence. He just decided he didn't like me, and we had a really negative interaction, but he walks and I walk, and we see each other like 5 times a day. And I'm forced to see that guy and be like, "What's up, Steve? Like, how are you, Steve?" And like, if I do that for thousands of times, eventually Steve's not really much of a dick anymore. And I think really when we start to understand some of the tangential aspects of this, of eating food with your family and your friends, of walking around your neighborhood, of breathing hard, we can create a better society that looks like the things we have to do for our bodies and our brains to be the kinds of feelings and families that we know we're capable of.
So funny you say that. When the campaign was running, Make America Great Again, I just kept thinking, if you want to make America great, if you want to make any country great, any community great, it's burpees, it's cold showers, it's sitting down and having a meal like I do when I'm at your house, where you guys don't have phones on the tables and you've got, like, I don't know, a little music play. It's awesome, right? And we've lost that. So that was the impetus for writing the book.
A different approach, and simultaneously, we gave this book. What's good for the goose is good for the gander. I think one of the great things about coming to a Spartan or a Tough Mudder or some of these other events is that it doesn't matter who you are. You're going to have a transformative experience going through it. Whether you're an elite athlete, when you line up and I'm like, carry this sandbag up these stairs, it's on. Like, here's this dirt. You made me carry a bucket of dirt up a mountain. And I remember looking at the guy next to me and being like, this guy and I, like, we have something in common right now, this bucket of dirt. And it doesn't matter who you are, you have the same experience. I think we all want to imagine that we're all advanced and that we all have secret squirrel, unique snowflake needs. We don't. There are fundamental archetypal, like Maslow hierarchy of needs. And one of those things is met when we have these experiences, when we move our bodies, we just feel better. And I think that's what's key about this book is when we gave it to these world champions, we found their blind spots. When you go do a Spartan race, you're like, wow, I didn't have my perfect gel and goo in my running shoes, and I had to get cold and I had to run in these wet shorts. Like, you just suddenly realize, wow, I'm really soft, and it's transformative for everyone.
I think the other thing too that I wanted to mention is that there are a billion books out there in the world that cover in more depth a lot of the topics we cover in this book. You can read great books by James Nestor on breathing, and Matt Walker's book on sleep, and there's a billion diet and exercise books. But I think what's different about this book is I think we're really the first people to take a crack at saying, hey, these are how all these behaviors are interrelated. If you don't walk enough, you're not going to sleep well. If you don't walk enough, you're not going to show up for your training session, the next day. If you don't ever eat a vegetable, your tissues are going to be jacked. You may be more likely to be injured, right? So I think we're really the first people in the health and fitness space to try to take a crack at saying, hey, here are the fundamental behaviors that all humans should be able to do. And here's how they interact and interplay with one another. And it's comprehensive. So, we wanted to say, hey, do you have a friend, neighbor, colleague who wants to get started, wants to feel better in their bodies, and needs some advice? Like, this is the book you give them because it's comprehensive. It's going to cover all the basics and all the basic principles for them.
You've got goals, and we can help you reach them. Trifecta is an immersive weight loss program built on science-backed principles that actually work. Step 1, answer a few lifestyle questions. Then set your goal weight, and we'll give you a personalized plan on how to reach it. Step 2, the Trifecta app is like a virtual coach in your pocket. Look out for daily education and nutrition tips as you begin gaining momentum on your journey. Step 3, let Trifecta be your personal chef and dietitian too. Eliminate the guesswork and kitchen burnout with pre-portioned macro-balanced meals delivered to your door. They're crafted using organic ingredients with different meals arriving each week. Simply unwrap, heat up, then eat. Step 4, you can change your plan anytime, or pause or skip weeks. Hitting a roadblock on your journey? We have a plan for that too. We'll arm you with ways to break through plateaus and get right back on track. All that's left to do is crush your goals. Get started today.
right? Somebody just signed up for one of our crazy races. They've never done anything before. Give us, 3, 5, 10 things at a Built to Move that they should be following on a daily basis, assuming they'll listen, because that's the bigger problem we have. They might even buy your book. They're not going to listen. They don't listen.
No. And how reasonable is that? We need people to feel for themselves. You'll take on faith. I'll try this. I'll do a race. And then you come through it and you're like, holy crap, I had no idea that was coming. That was amazing. I'm gonna do more of that. Well, if what we know is forever, if shouting at someone to stop smoking because they may die in 30 years, that didn't change anything, right? That wasn't the case. What we now know is around this behavior is that if I can make you feel better and give you an experience where something that's important to you changes, then you're more likely to do it again, because we really are interested. So someone signs up for a race. One of the things that we can use then is that's the unifying event. And it creates sort of a set of valences, orbitals around that, or certain behaviors. So it's an organizing principle. So from the book, one of the things we want people to understand is that your durability is sort of separate from your fitness. We want to take fitness and training and almost look at it as a leisure activity. And I know that's a strange word, but that's what you're doing for recreation. It's how you're, what you're doing. Some people go to concerts, you're, rucking around with a kettlebell, whatever it is, it's fine. But the core behaviors, we can start to separate out. What we know is that the first time you're gonna have to walk around a lot. So one of the things that Juliet and I are big fans of, and you already heard it's one of our keystone principles, is we want to get people to get more steps in. And what we can start to do is, in this book, we've tried to create what we call vital signs, physical vital signs, movement vital signs, that helps us understand where we are. And those vital signs are based on good data, real research, and are practicable. You can actually do them. So a simple one is, if I could say, hey, you're training for a Spartan race or some event, and I can give you a pill that reduces your all-cause mortality by 51%, are you going to take it? Yes, it's called walking 8,000 steps. So if we can get you to start walking more, well, you're going to have to walk a whole lot for these races. And it's an easy way to start to load your feet, get your body ready for this surprise that's coming. And so one of the things that we realized early on is that we need to get people moving a lot more. And the easiest movement we can do is actually engaged in walking. You can load it up. You can do breath holds. You can walk on uneven surfaces. You can walk bare. It doesn't matter. But what we know is when we begin to get people to move more, as Juliet hinted at before, we start to see a cascade of following on events. You start to burn more calories. You start to look a little bit better. You start to recover from the hard training session. You sleep more effectively. You decongest. Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I would say first one is, hey, let's get you there. What would you say next?
Well, I think, we haven't touched this yet. The other ones that I would add is that, people can get more out of their Spartan race and do more Spartan races if they actually just sleep 7 or 8 hours a night, eat some protein and eat some fruits and vegetables, and do a lot of walking and or rucking. I mean, that would be how I would approach my own training for a Spartan race, especially, most of them I've done sort of off the couch, but they're not really.
You haven't been off the couch in 30 years.
They're not really off the couch. Like all the Spartan races I've done, I haven't officially trained for, because I always walk a ton. I usually walk, my goal is to walk at least 12,000 steps a day. I do a fair bit of rucking, AKA carrying heavy things. I do some strength training, so I'm able to lift up the sandbags. I CrossFit. But I think the other piece that we haven't talked about, and is sort of half this book, is why Spartan racers and Tough Mudder racers and anybody in your universe, is that we actually have 5 chapters in this book that are about why you should care about your range of motion. And, this is a tough sell. We've been working on this for years, as you know, Joe, and, we're trying to get people to actually care about their range of motion. But, the way that I like to think about it, and the word that I would like to define for your listeners, is this idea of mobility. I think a lot of people don't really know what it means. And I think we've overcomplicated it. And that's partly our fault, since we sort of popularized the use of the word mobility. But nowadays, to us, what mobility means is, can you move freely in your body without pain? And can you do the things you want to do with your body? Well, the people listening to this like to be able to do Spartan races. And so if you like to do Spartan races now, and you want to continue to be able to do Spartan races or any of the other events,
a lot of weird stuff with your body in a Spartan race.
You're going to have to do a lot. You're going to have to put your body through all of its ranges of motion. And so that's something that you need to keep an eye on outside of your Spartan races. And, one of the things that we're huge fans of is just spending 10 minutes a night sitting on the ground, which has its own side benefits, and spending a little time working on your range of motion and your soft tissue, because we know that everybody listening to this is watching TV every night. The data's in that everybody's watching 3 hours of TV a night on average. So spend 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes if you've got it, just doing some care and feeding of the tissues of your body and keeping an eye on your range of motion, because that's going to really pay dividends in terms of your ability to be able to keep doing these races as long as you want to do that.
I've been around a few world championships that you guys have put on, and one of the events that destroys really good fit athletes is the tire flip. And it's not because the tire is heavy, it's because the tire is low, and that people struggle to develop sufficient power in really poor positions. So they're rounding their backs. I'm not saying that that's even dangerous. I'm just saying that, wow, that position, the only shape you can get in is super weak. And that's why you're struggling with this tire flip. When if we had more native range of motion, baseline range of motion in your hips and your power, in your ankles, you would see that you had way more opportunity and accessible power to solve this simple thing. Again, the tire is heavy, but it's the positions the tire requires you to be in. And these are native, normal positions, not Simone Biles superwoman positions. And so I think that really, for me, highlights this lack of that. All we've done is said, as long as you have the hottest engine and you can go so long, you're going to be great. But if you're the best runner in the world, you're going to get your kicked. The Spartan race, as soon as you have to do something that reminds your body that it has to do something faster than run or something different than running.
So just let's go over them again. So obviously walking 10, 12,000 steps a day, paying attention to your mobility. Can you move freely, pain-free, right? That's something you guys
sit on the ground during TV tonight for 30 minutes.
Sit on the ground. Okay. I assume you're saying as part of walking, take stairs instead of elevators and escalators. Right? Any chance you get, park further away from the grocery store, carry the groceries, push the cart, whatever you have to do.
Yeah, walking meetings, which I know you do because we've been on them.
Walking meetings. Maybe even, look, if you have a child that's 2 years old, and can walk, get the child out of the stroller. Walk with the child, right?
I had a really well-known pediatric physical therapist instructor. She's a professor, and she was like, "Can you please tell people that their kid cannot be in the stroller?" They're like, after 6 months, I know it's interminable to walk with your kid, but you either need to carry your kid, but you have to get the kid out of the stroller. She's like, listen to how simple this is. Get your kid out of the baby carrier for the car. That's not a design for a human being. That's a rocket ship space chair designed for transporting your kid through space. Then you come out of that and your kid needs to be on the floor. She felt like it was insane that we didn't put our kids on the floor so they could experience gravity and have to control. Even that early stage, the environment begins to make us more comfortable. You just hit on something that's so powerful. You have to walk. You have to get your kids to walk.
Veggies and fruit. So I'm my new thing, my life-changing salad. You ready for this? This is a big release. No one knows this. Cucumbers, black olives. Some people like them, some people don't. Red onions, apple cider vinegar, and olive oil. Cucumbers, red onions, black olives, apple cider vinegar, and olive oil. Every night, religiously, game changer.
What so good.
So
what is it that you like about that? Why no kale?
Yeah, I don't know about the kale or any of that. I can eat it with a shovel. I love it. It makes me feel really good in 100 ways. And I always think if I was stuck on an island and I could only eat one thing, I could eat it forever. I don't know. I love it.
We want people to hear this. We feel like there's 1,000 different ways to fuel, but what is endemic to all those things, native to all those things, is you have to eat enough protein. So we see that people are engaged in a lot of very strenuous work and not getting enough protein. Our recommendations, if you're an athlete, is to start to creep up your protein needs to 1 gram per pound body weight. And what you're going to find is, wow, I thought I'd skip breakfast, and now you're just behind on enough protein for the day, which means it's going to be really difficult for you to have healthy connective tissue and to recover and build the kind of strength and tissues and lean muscle mass you need to do these jobs. Second, is that we want everyone to eat 800 grams of fruits and vegetables. That's 1.7 pounds. And you notice we said fruits and vegetables. You want to do it with 4 big apples a day? No problem. You want to eat the Joe shovel salad? You can do that. But what we're really talking about here is we need to get you to actually eat some fiber, which changes your life. And you need more micronutrients. You need all of the special things that plants give us. And I'm talking about cucumbers and berries that allow your collagen to be produced, that allow all of the processes in your body to go on.
Recover from exercise.
Holy moly. And when we start to see people get more fruits, if that's your jam, more vegetables, if that's your jam, plus get enough protein, not only do you have some calorie control built in there, because let's be honest, a lot of people come to these races as a way of starting to say, hey, I need to change my body composition, get my life back together. Well, what we're telling you is that the way we eat for performance is the same way you can have some calorie control built in. Eat your protein minimums, eat your fruits and vegetable minimums, and then guess what? There's always room for a cookie in there because you haven't squandered it on a bunch of processed crap.
And in full disclosure for anybody listening, Kelly and Juliet have a financial interest in a cookie business. So that sounds like a secret advertisement.
It was a little plug.
You know, their daughter makes these cookies, and she's got a secret recipe. They're pretty awesome. We've had them at the races. So.
You know what?
Well, we were really honored because the first time you came over and ate one, you're like, I actually don't really eat cookies. So I felt like the fact that you'd eaten one was already like a gift, and then you ate it, and I think you really enjoyed it.
She baked it from scratch in front of you, which helps.
Yeah, that helped. Yeah. And, it's hard to resist a kid, but still, we felt honored that you not only ate it, but enjoyed it.
But check this out. Georgia's senior project right now, she's presenting on it today. She worked with this nutrition company we work with, and she made a recovery cookie. She's like, look, people are going to eat crap anyway. Let's go ahead and use this opportunity to get some more protein,
she actually
collagen.
Calls it a protein cookie. Kelly's rebranded it as a recovery cookie, but it's a protein cookie.
I like it. We gotta get some cucumber, red onion, and black olives in there.
That's gonna be my milkshake.
Yeah, we're gonna make that
the
salad.
Red onion black olive milkshake.
Give me 3 simple mobility exercises everybody should be doing every day.
Well, I would say the first one is this most simple, which we've mentioned a few times, and that is get down on the floor and sit on the floor for 30 minutes while you're watching TV.
That's a hip flexion exercise.
That's a hip flexion exercise.
Knees to chest.
And because most of us don't sit on the floor often enough, we will naturally change positions. So you won't really be able to sit in one position. You'll find you fidget and move positions. And that act is great because you're going to take your hip through various ranges of motion. Inflection. So just sit on the ground for 30 minutes and feel comfortable to change positions, cross-legged, 90-90.
That's going to make it easier to squat up, and even your burpees will get better because it'll be easier to bring your knee to your chest.
And then Kelly is really obsessed with this idea of hip extension, which is the antidote to all of the hip flexion we're doing sitting all the time as modern humans. And, we have a test in our book called the couch test. And you can actually do it on your couch. And again, it's something that can be done while you're relaxing or hanging out at night.
If you're on the ground and your wall comes down and meets the floor, you're going to put one of your knees in that corner. So you're facing away from the wall. You put your knee in the corner, your shin goes straight up and down, and all you do is going to get into a lunge. So your other leg's going to come up. So it's just kind of an exaggerated lunge position, but your leg is being supported and the back leg is being supported by the wall in this bend. And you just have to Google couch stretch. And I just want you to spend 3 or 4 minutes in the couch stretch, squeezing your butt and breathing, and you'll see how stiff your quads are and how poor you are at hip extension and why that is a problem for running up and down hills. If you want to make your knees feel better running down hills, you have to work on hip extension. The last thing is you got to start hanging. You have to put your arms over your head. If you want to take a big breath, if you want to maintain how your thoracic spine works, if you want to
be able to make it across the swinging monkey bar obstacle,
swim,
in a Spartan race,
whatever it is, throw, you have to have your arms over your head. There's the intelligent ape theory. And man, I'll tell you what, if we can get people doing more hanging, that changes the world. And you can hang by grabbing the edge of your sink and bending over and putting your head through your arms. You can do downward dog. You can hang from a pull-up bar. You have to hang.
Well, guys, listen, if you're listening to this, you're watching this, and you're scratching your head and you're saying, I don't know, what does Juliet and Kelly know about anything other than cookies? I can tell you, one of my boys had a problem with his knee. The boys are high-level wrestlers, and the immediate recommendation from the world was surgery, surgery, surgery. Kelly sent like literally $5,000 worth of gadgets to our house. We wrapped him up. He looked like a mummy for 60 days, and he crushed the season in wrestling. I mean, like literally crushed it. So these two know a little bit. How do they find you? How do people find you?
You can find us at builttomove.com. You can learn more about the book there. I am at Juliet Starrett on Instagram, and Kelly is at The Ready State on Instagram.
Awesome. You guys are awesome.
We started Trifecta with a very singular mission: to get America into shape. We were really interested in launching a business that was able to actually directly help people. That happened to be us helping with the chronic disease crisis that's caused by nutrition. We make it with organic ingredients, macro balanced meals, fully biodegradable packaging.
Trifecta's here. Oh yeah!
We have an amazing company mission to help get America back into shape.